Hey there, Andrew Anderson here. Today, doing a new intro, 739 days later after I started intermittent fasting, just by watching, the only thing that I took in was watching the video by Chris Winters, okay? So I gotta look at there. And that's it. And the reason for this was because I had figured out early on that when you want to get extraordinary results, the fastest way to do that in anything in life is to model yourself after someone who has successfully done it or is in the position that you want to get to. Okay, so in this case, he was and still is in fantastic shape. Back when I started, I was just fat person, at least for me, and I didn't like it at all. Okay, and I'm probably gonna leave this other video up here. We'll have to see how this goes. I'm shooting this off the hip right now. It's just I've been meaning to update it, and there was some things that are going on the Facebook page that I wanted to do this. So this whole, if you're on Facebook or if you're coming to my website, this is about my journey successfully now for over 2 years on mixing intermittent fasting and keto and how I blended them. Okay, I started with intermittent fasting, watching the video that Chris did. That's it. I didn't take in any information. Just to let you know, though, I had done keto before because I'd followed the Atkins diet and successfully lost like 20 pounds really quickly. But I wasn't able, I slowly got away from it. And a true Atkins diet, the early versions of it, which was like, I hate to say this, like 20 years ago, was really super high in protein. And they've since come out with the fact that that probably a little bit less protein and a higher fat content is good. But the bottom line is that whole system was found out to be correct. So intermittent fasting, which is actually a couple thousand years old, believe it or not, in fasting, they've known about the benefits of it from the Greek time, and that they even documented that it can help quite a few illnesses way back then. And Lord knows why this was ignored. Well, you know, money. Let's just say money. You can't make any money off of telling people not to eat or just to eat this. Instead, you can take this drug or come see me 300 times. And I'm not saying it's all bad, but this information got pushed down into out of the mainstream and is just now coming back. Although there's been steady studies on this, at least I've been digging up. You know, this is 2 years in a looking backward now. I've dug up dozens and dozens of probably hundreds of studies that support both intermittent fasting and keto. There's very few that link the two. Okay, but I've since found out that a lot of people I didn't know did, because I just started out with intermittent fasting and then I have slowly pushed into keto. And of the two, if I had to only do one right now, I would probably do keto. Although, you know, when faced with you know, pick A or B, I'm always the C guy, even if it doesn't exist. Give me both of them. And that's what I've done. And it appears that you can get the benefits of both, and especially with intermittent fasting, and still trick your body into thinking it's fasting for a longer period, even though you can eat, including doing what's known as bulletproof coffee. I call it bomb-proof coffee. It's my own version of it, and I make it a little bit differently. So go check out that information on the blog here, and it lists all the reasons why. Okay, so I don't adhere to just fasting or just keto. Although the further along and the deeper, the extra layers of onions that I get in here, I'm going more and more into saying that the keto diet really is the key to longevity, to mental health and acuity, which I called sixth gear, and I got into it. I don't know where it came from. It just felt like I was in that extra gear, not just like fifth gear, which is overdrive, but beyond that within the first day. Now, let me explain something to you. At the time when I started this, I had already given up all grains and wheat products for the most part. I had also given up sugar, okay? And I knew that both of those were really, really bad for me. If you want to read a book, go read Wheat Belly or Grain Brain to check on those. And there's enough information about sugar out there, about how the studies were manipulated through bribes in the 60s, that they basically took out fat, um, the sugar that was bad for you, and inserted fat instead. They just wholesalely swapped it out and put these studies out, and everybody bought it. So just look up New York Times sugar study, or there's a bunch of other ones. Just Google it, okay? Google is a great tool. So the purpose of if you're on Facebook and you're reading this, or if you're here, is this is my own journey that I started out with, and you'll see me slowly posting more and more information on my notes from when I first started going out. And I've managed to stick with this for over 2 years. And I've got to say that the more I do it, the benefits are just, they keep compounding. And I realized recently, and just found this out, that it actually, if you go into ketosis, it can take up to a year for your cells to actually fully adapt. They change the way they do things, because ketones are basically what you use for energy for your brain, instead of, let's just call it sugar. That's a simplified, or glucose. And it's much more efficient. Think of it as high test fuel versus gunky old gasoline that may have water that causes you to spit and start. And there's so many dramatic changes in your brain when you switch over to it, and not only in your brain but within your body. So it can take 6 months to a year to become fully adapted to it. And I thought I had plateaued out, but and I just found this, as I've dived into more studies recently. So, but here again, here's my whole purpose of going back through this. When I would not have been here today, I can guarantee you, I have no doubt in my mind, if I had started going to YouTube, watched all the things on intermittent fasting, watched all the videos on keto, watched all the info docs and the experts talking to me about this, I would have been so confused that I would have never gotten started, which would have been a shame, because it has drastically changed my life, okay? One, I'm in so much better shape. I've lost at least 36 plus pounds of fat. You can tell I've got muscles, and and I don't eat more than 100 grams of protein a day typically, which goes against everything that you probably heard from. I don't know if you can see, but I got rid of my belly. My mental acuity is so much higher here, it's not even funny. So that's basically it. And below here, I put in an easy way to get started, and my suggestion is, for what I did, let me back this up. I'm just going to tell you what I did and what I think. Whether you want to do it or not is totally up to you. I'm not giving you medical advice or anything like that. Go talk to your doctor before you do any of this stuff, is my suggestion. But hopefully you're an adult and you can figure this stuff out on your own. So this is mostly just telling me about my discoveries and my journey getting into higher levels of 6th gear using both intermittent fasting and keto. So let me explain what intermittent fasting, because I didn't do this. Intermittent fasting means that when you fast for any period longer than 12 hours, up to about 20 or so. If you go past that, you're just fasting. You're not intermittently fasting. What I do is I fast for 18 hours, then I have a 6-hour window when I can eat anything that I want in between there. Now, the thing of it is, I eat a high level of fats, a little bit of protein, and a very small amount of carbohydrates. And so what they call that is your macros. And your macros start with the amount of fat that you eat. So the first number is, for one, let's say my last meal was 75% fat. And then the next portion of it would be, let's say, 15% protein, okay? Out of all of my calories for the day, and this is the only time we're going to talk about calories, but out of all the foods that you eat per day that you consume, those are the percentage. And the last one is your carbohydrates, which is 10 to 15%, and then that'll vary about, depending on how much longer you vary, or how much you vary your fats and your protein. So the other thing is that's going to throw you off. I don't count my calories, okay, at all. And I typically eat anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 every single day. And you can see that I'm not fat. In fact, I continue to maintain my weight. I'm actually building up my muscle, and my body fat levels are slowly going down. And so it's a wonderful thing. What happens is, once you get used to this, your body will self-regulate. You don't have to count them. Now, when you're first starting out, one of the things that I've noticed is, and including myself, when I did not eat enough, it was really super hard. So my suggestion, and here's what I did, I pigged out. When I started getting intermittent fasting, that's what I started with. I wasn't concerned about keto so much. I pigged out at my last meal, so I was really full, and I didn't get that psychological urge to eat, because you'll find as you go along, a lot of your urge to eat is just psychological, because you've been stuffing your face 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times a day for decades, more than likely, okay? And to go to this is a little bit of a switch. But our bodies are used to this, and more than likely, up until about 6,000 years ago, this is a way that most humans ate. They also did not eat any grains. In fact, when we started eating grains, back in the Middle East is when everything came. The humans were average height were 6 foot. They shrunk down to 5'6", okay? Because it's super hard in your body to we never, frankly, digest them completely. And I don't want to get off track here, but going into this, when I started intermittent fasting, I was ahead of the game. And so as you move along, I would suggest that you're going to want to give up grains of all types. Read the books that I mentioned before, Wheat Belly and Grain Brain, and then definitely give up sugar. Go do your research on this and give up sugar. And I think I've actually got a link in here too that talk about this. So that's basically it. You can choose to just to follow what I did to stick with this for 2 years. And if you'd have told me back then when I started this, I'd be having this conversation with you, or this conversation period, and doing this video, I probably would have I wouldn't have believed it, honestly. I would not have believed it. But I'm so glad that I did, and it's become a way of life. This isn't a diet for me. And if you go to the Facebook group, it's hard because everything gets blended in, but there's been thousands of people that talked about the benefits of doing intermittent fasting and keto, or just one or the other. So when you go in there, if you're commenting on stuff, and if you're an expert, well, I don't assume you're going to be an expert on this stuff, because there's very few of them, honestly, because even the experts, none of them can agree on everything. So it's kind of up to you as an adult with a thinking brain to figure out which portion of this whole process you want to go to. But if you want to make it easy on yourself and do what I did, I modeled after someone that was successful, and I was able to do it. And honestly, I would have to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, in being very difficult and hard, this has at most ever been a 1.5 to a 2 tops. It is super simple, and which is why I keep it that way. And this is not my full-time job at all. This isn't what I do for a living. I do this so that I can have a better life, okay, if that makes any sense. I'm not one of the gurus out there. I don't claim to be a quote-unquote expert. I just know some of the things that I work, and they will go against what a lot of the experts say in some degrees, but there's always a reason for it, and I usually try and explain it to you. You don't have to do anything. Like I said, I'm just explaining what I do to get in this great a shape, and I'm in my mid-50s right now. Feel great. A couple of things, a couple of benefits. So what's going to happen if you get into this? And here's what happened to me and what sucked me into it. Your mental acuity is going to go through the roof, and I explained some of that if you go read BP Coffee. There's an article in here, okay? There's all kinds of things that will happen that your energy levels are going to go up. Okay, you may see a dip at first, but they will eventually go up. And the other thing is that your weight will probably go off. Your sex drive will go through the roof, so get ready for that, and hopefully you've got a partner that enjoys sex with you. If not, you may have to find one. So, and the other thing is and this has been reported, I've read this all the way back from the early 1700s, and even back into the Greeks had mentioned this, you'll become much calmer. your serotonin levels will go up, your dopamine levels will go up, you'll have more motivation, you'll be able to stick with things, you'll be able to have more focus. And this isn't witchy-woo or anything else. There's scientific basis for this happening. And once this happens, and that's what I named sixth gear, because there was another name from it. It was described um, quite a bit. So that's my own moniker that I made up out of thin air, because it puts you in past fifth gear, but it's in sixth gear. And it will change every aspect of your life. And I don't think this is hyperbole. And for people that have gotten into it, they'll back me up on this. And so, you know what? I wish you luck in your journey. If I can help you out, explain some of the things why I do what I do, feel free to hit me up. I don't have much time. I devote 20 minutes a day to this project. And as I said before, I first started this just so I could document to myself, put some social pressure on me so that I would continue to do it. And that's how my Facebook group blew up to 26,000 people. And so if you're coming into this, and if you're a strict keto person or a strict IF person, you're going to see some things in there that you may not agree with, but there's always a method to my madness, and there's some science behind everything that I do. I just don't pull stuff out of my rear end. It's either there's science behind it, or I know someone that's successfully doing it, okay? And I do use the group to pull information to make those changes. And I'm not into any one orthodoxy. If someone comes to me and says, hey, Andrew, this will work better for you because X, Y, and Z, here's the proof, here's the results, then, and if it makes sense based on everything else, I'm probably going to try it. I don't care. And that's one of the beauties. The problem with, I see with a lot of these experts is they're invested in selling you their system. Okay, my system really isn't a system. I take the best of what's out there and put it together. They're invested in doing keto a certain way because they've been preaching it. They probably have products that they're trying to sell you, whether it's vitamins or minerals or some other thing, and they say that you have to do it this way. Or better yet, if they're at a university or something, they may have millions of dollars of grant on the line showing them that this one orthodoxy works, or this one method, and they will discount or actually not consider the other one. So you've got to keep that in mind when you're watching the YouTube expert doctors out there, okay? And I'm not bashing them. There's some great ones out there. There's probably 5 or 6 that are really on the ball, but you'll find inconsistencies between all of them. And I don't know of any right now that have totally melded intermittent fasting and keto to the extent that they're starting to right now. But when I started intermittent fasting, I wasn't aware that you should do that. I just kind of did it on my own, okay? And I know that was only a couple years ago, but it seems like forever. And now there are a bunch more getting on the bandwagon. So anyway, I hope this helps you, you know, and I'm going to continue to share what's going on. You know, if you're just getting started on this, make it so as simple as possible. Don't get confused. I didn't read or look at anything for the first 30 or 60 days about this. I just followed the video, and that was it. And it worked like a champ. One of the things I would change now that I'm into this, I would try and get into ketosis as quickly as possible, okay? And I'll try and put some more information on there. And I think I've got 1 or 2 videos. But if you go to the keto docs, they're all freaking confusing because they say, you know, and I wouldn't worry about doing oscillating ketosis or going in and out of ketosis. There's just, you will get overwhelmed. And I'm not saying that all those other things may or may not have benefits, but get started. Get used to doing intermittent fasting. Get used to doing keto. And just so you know too, that for women that I found in the consensus, and I hate that word because consensus just, it's got so many bad meanings, but a lot of women that I've seen have reported that doing a 16-hour fast with an 8-hour eating window works best for them because your physiology is different than guys. You already know that. Your hormones, your thyroid, how you process food, the amount of fat, where you pack it, etc., is totally different. So anyway, would love to hear your comments on this. I hope this helps you out and you can get the benefits that I have from finding sixth gear, combining intermittent fasting and keto, and totally changing your life and losing weight, feeling better, and just kicking butt every day when you wake up and wanting to. So, Andrew Anderson signing off. We'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye bye.